Oh, hey, thanks for meeting me here on such short notice. So, rumor has it behind these doors is the famous Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. If that didn't give it away, the golden Freddy statue behind me probably does. Anyway, if you have your flashlight ready, I'm gonna go investigate the animatronic storage room. You can check out the customization conveyor belt. I'll see you inside. Hey, it's me, Freddy. Okay, but in all seriousness, welcome to another video, a customizing video. Today, we're going to be making the puppet or marionette from Five Nights at Freddy's 2, in celebration of the FNAF 2 movie coming out on the 5th of December, which hopefully should be the same day this video goes up. I am a massive Five Nights at Freddy's fan, so I've been wanting to make a custom based on the games for so long, and decided it was finally time with the puppet. The base for this custom is this G7 sloth. I have a couple of these little guys and thought that his head and eye mold specifically would be perfect for the puppet. So now that you know what we're making and who we're using to make it, let's get started. Join me in the customizing conveyor belt area and let's get this animatronic started. Hello? Hello, my name's Maddie and welcome to your first LPS FNAF customizing tutorial. For night 1, we will be removing the sloth's hair, nose and mouth. I wonder what goes on inside that head of his. Anyway, back to customizing. To seal up the hole on the head, I used some tin foil and then super glued it in place. This way you won't have any paint seeping into the top of the head and it will keep its round shape, which is what we want. I also sanded down the glue and also the front of the face in preparation for the modeling that I was going to be doing using Kneader-Tide. By the way, thank you to this comment for telling me how to pronounce it properly. The modeling I did for this custom was solely on its head, flattening the nose and mouth area to create a smoother canvas for me to redo the mouth to match the puppet's design. I achieved this by using some silicone tools as well. I also modeled on some little rosy cheeks with some circular clay pieces on the sides, and also gave the LPS some new eyelids, so it was less happy and more expressionate to the puppet's design. I smoothed out the clay using water and then set it aside to cure for 24 hours. After those 24 hours were up, I gave it a sand over to remove any lumps, bumps, fine lines, and just make everything a lot more blended in to the original LPS. Night 2, the painting night. I did a ton of white coats on this pet to get it looking nice and smooth because the base color for this pet is white. I started off by adding small details to the face after our base coat, starting with the mouth and eyes with black paint. Now, black paint has its pros and cons. I like using it because it is very opaque and usually doesn't take as many layers as other colors, but because of that, it can be a bit of a pain to clean up, especially when you're painting on lighter colors. So I was really trying to keep my hand as steady as possible and stay within the lines so I didn't have to clean up as much. I also want to take a moment to actually show you the marionette from FNAF 2 that I'm basing this custom off of. I kind of just assumed you guys knew, which is a bit rude of me. So here is an image of the puppet or marionette, and I think it's a really creepy design. The puppet has always been the animatronic I have been the most freaked out of. I don't know what it is, maybe it's just the simplistic face and the lack of features, but it's definitely the scariest animatronic like, in my opinion. I'm really excited to see the puppet in the upcoming FNAF 2 movie, and that was one of the biggest inspirations for me making this custom. The teasers and little images I've seen online look really cool, so I am very, very excited about that. I am someone who will sit down and watch like an 8-hour FNAF lore video over like 3 days. I'll just have it on my second monitor, listening away, absorbing all the lore, so I'm in deep. I know I don't really talk about it on my channel, but I am in deep with the FNAF lore. I love it. Continuing with the actual design, I painted the cheeks and lips this beautiful dark red color, which I think really complemented the design overall, and I'm very happy that I decided to go with a dark red rather than one that was super bright and in your face, even if it did take me a couple of coats, especially on those cheeks. Welcome to night 3. I'm surprised you've made it this far with the animatronics getting quite quirky at night. But night 3 consists of me actually changing some parts of the marionette's original design. If you're not super in tune to the puppet's original design, you may not even know what I changed, but I'm gonna explain it for you guys, for any hardcore FNAF fans out there. One of the main changes I made were to the tear lines on the puppet's face. In the original design, the tears lead directly into their mouth. However, the way this LPS is shaped, and also the way I sculpted it, it just wasn't realistic for me to do it that way. I think it would have just looked really weird. So instead, I opted to have the tears coming down between the mouth and the cheeks. I think it worked in my favor, and at this point, the tears were really bringing the custom together for me. Like, the puppet was actually starting to look like the puppet. It's a super minor change, but I am very glad I made it and I didn't try to just paint over the mouth. The second change I made was to the feet. While I was working on this custom, I actually looked up if anyone else had made the puppet from FNAF before, and to my surprise, Pia's Little Customs, an absolute OG, had also made a puppet custom. Looking at her work, which by the way, you should definitely check her out, I was very inspired to kind of add my own flair to the puppet's design while still staying true. So when it came to doing the back feet, I kept the design pretty similar to the front little hands, but I also added some little red paw pads to match the rosy cheeks. It's a really subtle change in the design, but for this LPS, I think it really works. Night 4, the hardest night for me, because I'm painting the body. This body has so many small crevices and lines, and it is kind of a nightmare to navigate. But I had a job to do, and I buckled down and took my time, especially around the arms. If you're familiar with the puppet's design, you know that I'm going to have to do stripes on these arms, and I was absolutely crapping myself when it came to that part, but you'll see. Your girl managed to pull it off, thankfully. And hey, guess you could say I made it to 6 a.m. Please don't leave. Even though the black paint is more opaque, like I mentioned with the mouth and eyes previously, it does take a couple coats every time. Especially when it comes to black paint, it is really easy to miss areas that aren't built up as much, and you really have to shine it in the light to see those patches, which I did, and I did maybe about 2 or 3 coats in certain areas where they were a little harder to get into because of the way the pet is shaped, but I was very pleased with how the overall body opacity turned out in the end. I did make a little boo-boo though, which was annoying, and I did have to clean it up and repaint that area with a bit of white paint. And then came the moment I was dreading, the stripes on the arms. I did these stripes in a clean, sweeping motion, trying to keep my hand as steady as possible, but like everyone, I mess up and had to fix some little finicky areas with some white paint to make the lines look a bit cleaner. It was then time for the final addition, some little buttons. You thought I forgot, didn't you? I used some UV resin and cured these in direct sunlight for like 20 minutes because they're so small. I gave them a quick coat of white paint and then attached them to the puppet using some super glue. I had to touch up the top button because it did get a little chipped while I was attaching it to the pet, but other than that, they were finally finished and it was time to add the sealing Mod Podge gloss eyes. I watered down the Mod Podge, which I recommend you do to prevent streak lines, and this was the very final step for our puppet custom. Now that you've survived night 4, I'll see you in night 5 where the puppet's final form is revealed.
Hello?
Oh, hey. I didn't know we'd be meeting up again so quickly. I think we're at the prize counter. There's a bunch of toys and gifts behind me. Huh? That's not all that's behind me? What do you... Ta-da! Please welcome the puppet. I've currently got this little guy set up in the prize counter section with all the gift boxes and prizes. If I was gonna make a FNAF custom, I had to make a little scenery set. Obviously it's not lore accurate, but I think it works well with it. But let me actually give you a proper good look at the marionette because I am so proud. Here is our puppet or marionette, whatever you want to call her by, and I am so happy with the end result. They're not perfect. Obviously, I did make some tweaks with it being an LPS, the main one of course being the feet, and I kept the buttons purely white, but other than that, I tried to stay as faithful as I could to the original design, and I think I was able to pull it off pretty successfully. But there they are. I'm gonna add some close-ups of this custom, of course. I'm incredibly proud of the final product. I really hope you guys love it, and it was a real passion project for me because I am a massive Five Nights at Freddy's fan, like I said, so I'm excited for the second movie. I do of course prefer the games over the movie. I think, just in my personal opinion, there are a few things I would change in the movie. But the second one looks really good from the trailers I've seen, a lot more, I guess, true to the original story. And in all honesty, the FNAF movies are just a fun time, whether or not you count them as good movies. But yeah, I love the games, massive fan, I have been for years, so I'm so glad I finally got off my little booty cheeks and made a custom of one of the characters. I also hope the little skits throughout this video were enjoyable as well. Thank you all so much for your continued support on my customs, especially larger projects like this where I do sculpting, because I am still learning when it comes to sculpting. I've definitely gotten better with like blending seam lines, but I can still improve, and hopefully you guys have seen the improvement in my sculpting in particular. If you enjoyed this custom and want to see other ones I've made, I have a bunch up on my channel. Here's some examples. Wow. And that about wraps this video up. Like I said, I hope it was enjoyable seeing the puppet come to life, and let me know your opinions in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoy, like always, please don't forget to like, comment, and of course subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Until then, bye guys! There are no strings on me. Woo!